Vindication is the state of being vindicated. Isn't that helpful? Now, if you look at condemnation, you know that that's dealing with men and women. If you look at justification, you know that again, it's dealing with men and women, but God had a real act in that. If you look at sanctification, again, it's dealing with men and women, and God is behind it, helping us to be what we should be. Because as you probably know, chapters 9 through 11 is Paul talking to the Roman church about the people of Israel. And let's face it, the people of Israel had a lot to be blamed because they hadn't followed God's law, and by and large they rejected the Messiah who was to save them. What it's going to be talking about is vindicating God as to how he dealt with Israel. It's freeing God from any blame or any allegation of wrongdoing. And I think that's important.
We're in Romans, in the section of Romans, right? We've looked to break Romans down into 5 sections. Condemnation, we are all declared guilty because we are guilty. Justification is this momentary, instantaneous legal action that says you are now declared righteous before God. And sanctification is simply trying to live up to the reality of how he sees us. He sees us holy, he sees us righteous, he sees us clothed in Jesus's righteousness. Vindication. God was vindicated in how he treats both Israel and by extension us. Application. How does all this come together and fit in our life? And how does it change us? Christ has come, but he hasn't come again. And his relationship to Israel is pretty comparable from what Paul was to now. Paul actually goes so bold to say, I would be willing to give my own salvation up that Israel could be saved. And what's going to happen to Israel at the end of time? When we get to the end, how is God going to deal with Israel? Our language would be eschatology. What is our view of Israel as we come as God, as this, right? We talked about this theological tension of already, not yet. Satan's already been defeated. Christ has already come. We are saved, but not yet. He still has power. He's still ruling. He's still reigning. When we get to that not yet component, what is God going to do with Israel? If you were to get too hung up on how important Abraham is, yes, he is incredibly important. He was a scoundrel. I mean, he was not a nice guy. You wouldn't have I don't know how they stayed married. Really. Some of the stuff, look into it. He's not a great guy. But God chose him because God gets the glory. Because he was weak. From that moment on, Israel is going to go into a circular spiral of they are going to love God, they're going to follow God, they're going to fall into sin, they're going to pay the penalty for that sin, they're going to repent, and then they'll be restored. Paul immediately wraps up transformation. It doesn't really wrap up transformation, but he ties transformation into, okay, your transformation, let's talk about what it looks like in the local church. He describes the local church as one body. Paul would have a clear understanding of this because there wasn't 18 different churches in Rome. There was the church at Rome. He goes, hey, you guys are one body. And don't get too proud, don't get too puffed up about who you are, because the body needs all the parts. And then inside that body, inside this church, each one of you has different gifts, skills, and abilities. Having your mind transformed is being part of a local church.